So welcome to everyone. We've been chit-chatting for a couple of minutes. Thank you for joining us. I'm excited. This is a first joint webinar.
Yeah.
I've been I've had the privilege of being a guest on the Lighthouse Financial Checks and Balances podcast. This is a first need money for real estate collab for all of you like us trying to do better and beat what's status quo, really, trying to better ourselves. Let's face it, we hear the E word, we hear the R word, a lot of challenges, high costs out there. If you're like the close to 500 who are here with us tonight, you are doing better than the rest of the world on Netflix right now.
Yeah, sitting at home watching TV, probably a cold winter night most of the country at the moment.
Yeah.
So getting cold out there, and you've joined us, and you're giving your time to have listen to us talk about property.
It's true, actually. Thank you for your time, because who has much time? No one. And the fact that you're not watching Netflix and you want to hang out with us is awesome, because actually a little story, I caught up last week. There was an awesome networking event. I met the most inspirational person I've met for a long time, Anna Mowbray, who founder of Zuru, now Zeal, officially the country's wealthiest family, above Graham Hart. She had two words that start with C that I felt are actually appropriate for who you are and what we want to achieve for you tonight. She mentioned, we're all talking about how expensive life is right now. She was saying the way to succeed in an economy like the one we're in is to be curious and creative. So the fact that you're here means you're being curious, and we can show you creative. To celebrate a couple of awesome case studies, mutual clients of ours, that we'll take you through.
Awesome.
Anything to add?
Let's get on with it. Let's get into it.
Cool. Alrighty, sharing screen. We will have a couple of polls through this as well, which will be interesting, because we want to know where you're at and make sure that we can give you the most relevant information. Would someone mind just popping in the chat, or Q&A, in the chat actually, can you see our screen? We might check with our marketing guru as well. Good to go?
Good to go.
Awesome. Why are we here? Why are you here? We ran a poll a little while ago that based on the cost of living right now, capital gains does not seem to be the be-all, end-all, Yeah,
you can't eat bricks, as some of the greats say. So you've got to find that yield, the real money that's going to pay the mortgage,
pay the bills,
and provide that lifestyle we've all been, aiming to achieve.
Why you're investing, right? So just a really brief disclaimer. You can read it on the screen. What we're about to show you tonight is a great couple of case studies of what are real results from clients who are achieving great success and roads towards their goals in life. But just please be mindful, this is not financial advice. You have the opportunity to discuss your own situation with AJ and the team on another day following this call.
Yep, absolutely. This is not tailored for you. This is just general chit-chat about what we know. What we talk about is not financial advice.
Brief intro for each of us. Hoping you can see screen perfectly fine, which hopefully is good. So a little intro each of us. As I say, this is the first time we've got together to show you what our mutual clients are achieving. My name is Ilse Wolfe. You may or may not know me. I'm the founder and director of Wolfe Property Coaching. A little bit about me. I started as a part-time investor renovator working in a bank many years ago, as many in the industry actually do start out.
Yeah, a lot of people start bank. They get the itch. They figure out that there's more to life than working for the bank forever. And
you see how successful other clients are of the bank, right? And I think that's what actually gets so much of us hooked, going, actually, there's so much more we can achieve. So from the outset, became more curious about that. Between my own and my clients' renovations, well over 200 renovations now in the last 4, 5, 6, well, my years, but definitely with clients the last 4 years or so. I've stolen the headline from the Checks and Balances episode, from 5,000 to 20. So my portfolio has been 100% built on a value add renovations-based strategy. And in terms of where you might hear other examples, my journey, my client successes, the list is there. And I've had some written pieces in Property Investor, Business Desk, Metro, and Informed Investor. And to bring you the financial acumen from an advisory standpoint, AJ.
Cool. Yeah, so mortgage director here at Lighthouse Financial, Lighthouse Mortgages. Been in banking in the finance industry for 10 years, cut my teeth at the bank, as just recruited to, in the retail, broker channel, retention channel, and small business team. So I managed to get enough of an insight to realise that while the bank is great, it's better out, if you want to help people, be out there and being able to service all banks or debt. We've renovated my first house. We've done renovations. I recall renovating with my wife Anna, day in, day out, midnight.
Nice.
And then the second one, up here in Auckland, that we did with Matt, where we were literally there pulling out staples on the floor,
The scissors.
Oh yeah, with the and then them clipping off. Anyway, lots of renovations in the time there. I guess we put 20 investment properties in 2 years, through 2019 and 20.
That's crazy. That's not normal. In case you think it's normal, it's not normal.
The interesting thing is that was a lot of earthquake damaged properties in Christchurch and sort of throwaway properties in Auckland. All of them had some sort of requirement to repair, remediate, and they weren't fit for normal lending, so we're able to do that, and doing that along with family, with Matt, Adam, a family business. We're able to sort of pool resources, pool thoughts and expertise and make it happen. So 20 in 2 years through COVID, nonetheless, which is an absolute treat when it comes to borrowing. A lot of that experience we put into practice. I'm able to use that experience to help clients and through real life experience, just knowing the path forward, the finance plan, and realising that it's not necessarily cheap or easy, but the outcome is the ability to get those capital gains to get those yields. And then we've got down there side hustle developer. Everyone needs a side hustle, right? We're doing a few new build developments in the past and currently doing it.
It's a fairly major side hustle. That's why I put it in
I mean, just in case I wasn't busy enough trying to help everyone buy various properties and anything in between. But absolutely love it. That's why we're all here. We love property. We love helping people. Love getting ahead. So
for sure. And that's the thing. Like your household, my household. I truly think the impact of being able to imbue the knowledge and the ups and downs. It's not linear. You're right. The lessons are sometimes easy, sometimes they're incredibly hard, and they take all twists and turns to get to where you land. And hopefully you can see how that comes through. It's not a straight line to success, and hopefully you'll get some new information, some insights, and some creative thinking from tonight to help you. Yeah,
you can build on what you know and take it away and go, actually, what I'm thinking makes sense.
For sure.
I'm not alone here.
So just to make sure we understand who we're talking to, where you're at, I'm going to quickly throw up a poll on here. Just going to go, oh, sorry, 1 second. Oh.
Slide 6, technical issues.
So,
see if we can go back.
Hang on, we're going to come back here and then we're going to do our poll. Sorry, excuse me, bear with me. Poll, okay, right. Poll 1, launch.
Here we go.
Okay, first question for you. Tell us who you are. Oh gosh, okay. You don't need to be asked.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we already know.
How many properties do you own? This is interesting. I think it's important, the yet, because this is what you're here for, which is how do I get my first one?
Yeah, getting some good results. We're nearly there, 67, 70.
Okay, yep. Well, this is interesting. Oh, it's evening out as more people answer, actually.
Cool. So we're getting a good blend there. I think we
2 to 4 is winning. 2 to 4 properties is somewhere between 1, 2, 3, 4 properties. Okay, we'll leave it for another 10 seconds. Awesome. Okay. So none yet.
There we go.
That's a small bracket. Okay, cool. Okay, great. So.
Right. So from what we can see is most people, 39% so far, own 2 to 4 properties, which is about what we normally see, chatting to people, chatting to our accounting team, that most investors have their family home, maybe one other, or, 2 investment properties. So that resonates. There's quite a few of you who've got more than 5.
It's a high ratio.
And again, it's probably why you're here again, looking to take that next step, right? What do you do once you've got the 5 houses? How do you buy that hotel, so to speak? I know that's a bit cheesy, but you know, that's the sort of the idea between a multi-unit properties and doing what we do.
Second. Alrighty.
Share results.
Awesome. Nope. Okay. No, that's cool. So good for us to get a feel for where you're at. Very few who are yet to begin, and most actually, if we collate those two and more, is actually the bulk of where you're at. So here we go. Sorry. Oh gosh, hang on. Things popping up all over the place. Let's jump back in. Sorry, we're going to move on to our next slide. Sorry, just bear with us here. Pop-ups, etc. Just going to go back into our slides. Cool. So before we get into the case studies for tonight, the fun stuff.
Finance update.
Finance
Right,
updates.
here we
What's
go.
the lay of the land right now?
Okay, so there's a lot of banter and a lot of chat that we've all been hearing, thinking, seeing. The key thing coming in, or the key things coming in the 1st of July, debt-to-income ratios, LVR changes specifically for property investors, and what's not in the notes there is amendments and potential changes, rollback to the triple CFA, which is that word that we love hearing, the Credit Contracts and Consumer Finance Act, which they're continually changing, depending on who's in charge and what it means to people. So we'll start with the debt-to-income ratios, and all of this is all available via the Reserve Bank website. So, you know, I've just put a couple of bullet points. We're not going to spend all night talking about it. In short, 6 times gross annual income for borrowing for owner-occupied properties. So $100,000 gross annual income for a household, or 200, depends where you live. Times that by 6, that's, you know, realistically what you can borrow. Same for investors, 7 times, so that includes gross rental income, gross personal income, times it by 7, that's essentially what you can borrow. Includes all debt limits and credit card limits. So in other words, if you've got $1 million mortgage and you've got a $20,000 credit card with a limit, that's 1.02 mil, that's your debt. In short, there are exemptions that apply, and a lot of people are going to go, well, I'm self-employed, how does that apply to me? Again, without going too far down that rabbit hole, it's on the Reserve Bank. There are ways that you can determine quite easily I say quite easy, there's formula and what have you there, but on that website.
Just before you move on from debt to income, what income are we talking about? Gross, net? Is it salary? What about rental properties? How's that work?
Gross, yeah.
Gross,
So,
include all of the above.
Yeah, gross, not including your property management fees. In certain instances, like self-employed or business, you can add back interest and depreciation, home office expenses, stuff like that. Again, the idea is just to get an absolute gauge of what you earn, what you owe.
Everything that's coming in.
Yeah.
Everything that's going out.
Tax-paid income.
Yeah.
So if you've got that side hustle, you know, selling puppies on the side or anything like that, you know, it doesn't include that. So,
LVR changes.
LVR changes. So
this is a big one, right?
It's an absolute big one, yeah.
Property investors are, you know, if we're looking for leverage, which only comes through property, 65% currently on investment properties. What are we expecting as of the 1st of July? And when do we think this will come into effect?
So, yeah, so 1st of July, again, the amount you can borrow on in situ, so existing investment properties, is increasing by 5% from 65 to 70%. So, again, quick example, I know that I'm kind of explaining stuff to the people who already know it, but if you're buying a property for $1 million, in the past you would have needed the equivalent of $350,000 deposit through cash or available equity in other property. Now it's changing to 30%, so 300,000. I've also noted down there, and again, if you guys are you're already investors, doesn't necessarily apply, but the amount of low deposit loans that any bank can provide to lenders with less than a 20% deposit are changing. So currently they're able to give 15% of all loans out outside above the threshold of 80% LVR. That's increasing to 20%. So there's going to be more people out there, first-time buyers, in theory, who are looking to buy their first house, and the bank is more likely or more inclined to approve it
Than before. Okay.
It may push up the value of single homes out there. It's more competition for investors just looking for a standard return, standard property. But we're yet to see. It's not 1st of July yet.
Interest deductibility, so 1st of April this year versus 2025. What are we expecting?
Yeah, so I mean, it's almost the elephant in the room, and not a lot of people are out there sort of talking about it, but they've reintroduced the ability to deduct interest against your investment portfolio. So 27th of March 2021, the government said, hey, you know what, you can't deduct interest. That seems like too good to be true for you. You're able to get a tax benefit. So they removed the ability for you to deduct interest on the loans that you have against your investment properties. They sort of were slowly phasing it out, so it gradually decreased each year. The current government's sort of gone, well, you know what, that's like treating you like a
business expense.
Yeah, it's a business expense, a second class.
And we're serious about this.
Oh yeah, second class citizen, so to speak. So they're putting it back in there.
So as of 1st of April next year?
Well, the interest deductibility is back in now. It's about 80%. Next year it'll be 100%.
Okay.
Also, talk to your accountant about this. That's their domain. It'll give them something to chat about. But accountant love chatting about tax and interest deductibility and chattels depreciation, what have you. But what we're also seeing as part of that rollback is, in the past, lots of people were looking to refinance properties. Property one, entity A might be a trust or a company, and they would look to refinance it into another trust or a different company.
Yeah.
But the value of the property, they might have paid $500,000 for it 5 years ago. It's now worth $1 million. Looking to refinance that from, as I say, from entity A to entity B, and being able to sell it at that $1 million purchase price, and then looking at again increasing the debt loading and potentially that interest deductibility on there. So that all makes sense. Again, wait and see, but talk to your accountant about that, because that's pretty big news, in the sense that if you now go from, X amount of interest as a deductible expense, and you're able to increase that, the amount of tax that you potentially could pay reduces. Again, I say potentially, I'm not the accountant. Talk to your accounting team.
So I think the one that has had a lot of the limelight is DTI, debt to income ratios, right?
Yep.
So right now, interest rates, 1 year rates, 6.85, 6.0. What is the impact of debt to incomes
right
now versus what's possible in future?
Yeah, probably not much.
What do people care about?
Not
What should
really
they care
much.
about?
Like, I wouldn't be too afraid of it right now, and I don't think you should be afraid of it in general. It's something that I feel is a future proofing for when interest rates decrease somewhat, and the banks apply the amount, what they can lend based on a test rate. So that might be, 1 year rate plus 2%. It might be just a figure that they, decide is fair and reasonable. It allows them to decrease that threshold to allow new, people to buy, to, leverage more property.
Okay.
But if you are highly geared at the moment, like your debt's out the chart, maybe you've got a whole heap of personal loans, remember it's all debt. That could be IRD business loans, that could be student loans, that could be a loan to credit card from your grandma. So if you're family loans, if you're talking about that,
they will encompass all of that. Okay.
Absolutely everything, all debt that you owe. So if you've got a huge amount of debt, you will be, although you technically could afford it, if you hit the thresholds, the bank's going to stop you from borrowing too much and putting yourself at risk. Again, the idea of risk is if the rates go up again, you're not going to be caught short. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's not something to be necessarily worried about. If you're good with money, if you're hunting those cash flows, you'll be fine.
Okay. All the more reason to be strengthening your cash flow position as much as possible, which is what you're all here for. So, okay, cool. So if we segue into, let's get into the nitty gritty of different property investment strategies. Basically, we have this list here, which is ascending, so improved cash flow in a general sense, as you embark down the list of these different property investment strategies. So land banking is more of an equity play, a wealth play. Oftentimes, LVR is lower, 50% LVR. Often there's no income unless you have leasable land. Moving up the chain, slightly stronger returns, and again, in a general sense. New builds off the plan, spec builds, Lots of benefits we'll go into actually in the second case study around those. Again, some of the challenges though around those are ability to manipulate the returns. They are brand new, awesome, so warranties, low maintenance, but often actually the last few years at a premium because of how the government has incentivized in that direction, right? Following on from that, existing builds, which have had a challenge for cash flow based on previous years of the reduced interest deductibility.
Yep.
So existing builds without renovation, buying a 3-bedroom house, from a post-tax cash flow point of view, they have performed worse off than a new build. What we're focusing on tonight, because you are here to improve your cash flow, to help pay your bills, is the long-term strategies that help you get the best out of existing builds. So how to manipulate the property to generate a higher return. Vis-a-vis, I think we're saying we're buying at discount without saying we're buying at discount.
Yeah.
But if you buy something and you get a higher return, it's the same kind of idea.
Absolutely. What can you do to, make it better for you, to return capital?
Right.
Cash.
So manipulating the dwelling to cash flow hack or increase returns. Cash flow hacking, by the way, is if you don't already follow some of the content I've had on Instagram, is how to buy the right type of existing build property that allows you to add an internal bedroom. On top of that, when you are renovating, however you go about it, whether you're focusing on cash flow hacking, which is geared towards improving the returns or the gross returns, the cash flow, you are also inherently adding value because you are improving that property. But of course, the other benefit of existing builds is not often talked about. Not everyone will realise the potential, but developable, intensifiable land, which is what you do. So by the existing builds, utilise the potential value of those by building and intensifying. So we won't focus so much on that part, but that is a benefit that is exclusive to existing builds.
Yeah, absolutely. You already own the land. You've got the house there. If you can improve the house and then use the land, it's free carry on that land.
Okay.
But anyway.
So the sweet spot of for all intents and purposes for cash flow to be time and cost efficient. So no red tape, ideally no or low building consents or red tape required. The more control we can retain in analysing and creating an outcome from an existing build is kind of where myself and my clients focus, and these are the two cases we're going to highlight today. Creating above market returns. We'll show you what this means shortly. Adding value to a property through renovations, leveraging other people's time, the power teams, people on ground, usually 6 or 7 weeks to create these higher than average returns. All of this is going in an effort to build a deposit. I have a service called Accelerate, and it's actually about acceleration of portfolio growth, whatever that means to you, and the ultimate goal through property. So think about what are you trying to achieve, and is the strategy or the path you're on right now pushing you towards or away from that? Something for you to think about. Now, lenders and how quickly you can move using the BRRRR method, so buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat, or cash flow hacking.
Yep.
How quickly can an investor accumulate to build their portfolio?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's interesting. The standard answer from just about every bank you'll find, perhaps some of the brokers, or who knows, you can only do it every 6 months. Come back to us in 6 months. We'll review it in 6 months. And we used to hear this all the time.
That, literally.
Yeah, you can't do anything. Oh, you've added all this value. That's great. Let's chat in 6 months. The reality is not all banks have the same policy. Often we see the 3-month rule. In shorter terms, and speak from experience, we come back in 2 months. Hey, look, we bought this.
2.
We added, 6 weeks, I think was the shortest. But it's going, hey, we bought this property, it was below market, this is what we've done to it. We want to take it from bank A or lender A to you, bank. We're ready to go. Let's do it. So waiting 6 months seems ridiculous, given that you've clearly demonstrated what you've done to improve that property. A little bit different if, I don't know, if you did nothing to it perhaps, or who knows. But yeah, I wouldn't settle for 6 months. Get a second opinion on that because...
Okay.
Yeah.
More is possible.
Yeah.
I've put this prompt in here around yield versus capital growth, and oftentimes we're told you need to choose. I genuinely believe and push in my own deals, as you know, clients' deals, it's about getting the best of everything. So leverage, higher returns or yield from a cash flow point of view, and creating value are all achieved through renovations when you do it a great way, the right way. And the pointer here is that if you don't assert those benefits from property through putting in that little icing on the cake, that extra effort to create them, then you get what everyone else gets, right? So above market rents gets you above market results and speed. Average returns is what you get like everyone else. A quick illustration here is kind of showing a spectrum or a continuum of the types of properties that the examples fit into from tonight, but also a little bit of a snapshot from my own and investors' portfolios. Top left is a standalone property. I guess it's kind of like from a definition point of view as well. Standalone existing build on a slab of freehold land. Top left, bottom left, home and income. So where you have like a main or a major dwelling and a minor dwelling, which is underneath there, is called a home or dual income property. The two to the right, because you're also astute in how many properties you own, you've probably had your eye on at least one of those two on the right.
Couple I recognise it.
Yeah. Coveted properties there. Top right is away in the tropics, so may not be watching, but this is an absolute awesome on-market deal that a client has secured of a multi-unit nature, so multi-family, multi-income nature. Bottom right, no, do you have anything to say about this one? This one you might recognise.
Oh, I don't know. I've seen that one a wee bit over the last 15 months or so, but yep.
Just to give you an idea of scale. Now look, let's crack into the case studies. Capital gains does not pay the bills. I think we all know that. On the left is a cash flow of a typical existing build that has not been renovated in a great way, or actually oftentimes the inquiries through my website are actually this cash flow is reflective of a new build, townhouse type cash flow. So the brackets mean a top up on top of net income minus expenses, $30,000 or so per year top up. So this is a common situation. The next poll, we really want to understand sort of where you're at, but this is almost like a visual representation of how many investors are living right now. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just what it is, right?
What we want to get into is give you these ideas that can help you be more creative. So cash flow to push above market returns. This is not buying a 3-bedroom house and getting a 3-bedroom rent. As I say, that's a typical return. Tonight we're focusing on how you can add scope, up spec, add bedrooms, do what you need to do. Again, time, cost, effective, ideally no red tape as well. This is how you boost an above average return. The left and the right charts are the same property, okay? This is the before on the left, which is absolutely unacceptable from a cash flow hack. If my client said this, they'd be in detention.
Yeah, you're tipping money
just
each
quietly.
You're sponsoring somebody's tenancy really at that stage, aren't you?
Oh my gosh.
With the hope of a capital gain over time.
But like jokes aside, like that's not sustainable.
No.
It's not sustainable. Yeah, and I've definitely been there, by the way. This is Ilse in an earlier life of doing things with not the right way in some cases.
Yeah, and absolutely. And we're seeing a lot of people end up like this. They've got good income, personal income, so they can support the having to kick in X amount of dollars each and every week on the hope of future capital growth and being able to sell down those properties to sponsor retirement, but it just doesn't need to happen. Very
difficult. So, just before I move on the right is the same property after cash flow hacking and manipulating that build to get a better return.
Yeah, putting in another room, right? So you've added value, you've added value to the property, you've added another room, and for, well, I guess, not a huge amount of actual capital input, and able to turn the fortunes on that property.
Totally. And I think what we want to really focus on tonight is obviously we're talking about existing builds and creating better outcomes than how you see them listed online. Now, a big part of that job is educating you to look at all of the information that is public or online for you to analyse, critique. It's not always easy, especially if you are a remote investor. What we want to focus on with this example here is Joe and Eva, clients of Lighthouse Financial, and to kind of show you something that's really, I don't want to say off-piece, it's all done absolutely as it should be by the book. It's about asking the right questions and finding creative solutions, which is what you need to do to do better than the status quo right now. So this is a really great example. We have Joe and Eva. They have a robust long-term plan with the wealth team at Lighthouse Financial, and they were told that, hey, look, there's a gap for them to, I call it clocking life. Basically, they have a retirement goal, and for them to clock their retirement goal, they needed to secure one more investment property. The catch was, or the challenge was, that they needed to create at least a 7% return. And they also had a budget less than 500K. Now, going out to market, that's typically quite difficult. We are, yes, in a time where there's a lot more flux, there is a lot more motivation for vendors selling, all sorts of reasons. But typically speaking, 7% return is not that common. Before we dive in, AJ, could you give us a quick rundown of split banking? What is split banking, and why is this helpful for an investor who wants to grow their portfolio?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you would have heard this term. It's fairly common to most, not for all. So it's essentially where you top up against the equity in your own occupied property to support the deposit with another bank at 35% LVR in this instance, without having both of those properties tied together. Benefits can be that, if you wanted to sell that investment property in the future to sell down, repay debt, you don't then have to go and look at, do you have to pay down some personal debt as well against your family home? And having multiple banking relationships allow competition in the market. One bank might give you, interest rate pricing. You go to your second bank, go, hey, look, Bank A said this, what are you going to do for me today? What have you done for me? Can you help? And it's very common. Diversifies risk. And gives you more options, more competitiveness. Also, if the movement of the investment property relative to your own home goes up, or your personal home goes down, you're not tied together, your equity's not completely locked together. So there are, there's lots of benefits there. It's a little bit more tricky and time consuming to pull off. You've got multiple applications to the bank, and you have to, from our point of view, you have to coordinate the information that's provided to both banks. You're telling Bank A that this is what you're going to borrow with Bank B, and Bank B, this is what we're borrowing with Bank A, and then obviously being able to make sense of it between the two banks and showing that. So it does take a bit more time, skill, but it allows, future potential for you. Great. So having a look at this one as well, so we've used the illustration. The value of their owner-occupied property is $700,000. The new purchase price $353,000. In order to get a 35% deposit, we needed $123,550 in this illustration, and the Bank B was going to gave us $229,450
for the purchase of property you're about to see.
Yeah, that purchase, right? So that's 100% debt funding, owner-occupied house, personal names, new lending, LTC, $229,500. LTC, $123,500 LTC secured against family home, possible. Again, we sort that all up. And then the $76,000 you see there is the renovations, the adding of the room, the paint, the floss, the curtains, the carpets, all the stuff that makes it worth a bit more. Meeting Healthy Homes, again, we're able to tap into that equity to be able to top up. What we don't have there is the existing debt, about $360,000 as well. So that's up to 80%. LVR against the 700K, making about 560.
And I think this is a fair illustration to say this is often the goal. If you're looking to build an investment portfolio, you're looking to acquire the deposit on a property that is a security with a bank, and then the purchase itself is ideally with a different one. Now, talking about pragmatic aspects of this, these investors are based in the South Island. And they also had all new build properties. So looking to create a 7% or higher return was a little bit out of their knowledge base. They have a young family, they just wanted the results. So they were largely relying on the power teams, or the builders, the property managers, all of our team to get on foot. So jumping over into the Wolfe property camp now, investors based in the South Island, we could work out with the lending parameters, if you like, how much they could spend and what they needed to achieve. One of the top markets that has performed consistently and still continues to do so is Whangarei. So, whether they were in the South Island or in the UAE or in Australia actually makes no difference, because with the networks we have and the power teams on ground, the idea is that they get to leverage the expertise from inquiry, due diligence, right through to the execution of that renovation. Now, what they bought, as AJ said, this was an awesome opportunity. So through our relationships, in fact, I had probably about 20 of our investors. We were up in Whangarei looking at some renovations, and an agent caught wind of that and said, hey, look, I have a widower. He wants his property sold. He doesn't want the rigmarole of a full marketing campaign. He wants to jump in his RV and go travel. So he said, just show us an offer, let's work it out. So we bought this property, or our clients bought this property for $353,000 off market. In reality, using the tools that you have, this should have easily been over $400,000. What I wanted to point out here is it is a highly spec'd property compared to what normally shows up in this location within Whangarei. Double glazed joinery. It was an owner-occupied place, as I mentioned, so really well maintained, really well cared for, which is a great benefit if you can purchase an ex-owner-occupied property. And because of that care, and it was his own home, he had, made a lot of improvements. So the lounge had this beautiful exterior deck and access. And if it had been a rental property, some of these features may have not been there, right? Because they wouldn't have been considered. What this allowed was the fact that we didn't need to go in with a complete renovation, and things that you're looking for are often that a property should have pros and cons. And in this case, there were many things that leaned itself towards suiting that we didn't need to spend on. Great carpet, well maintained, original but actually well looked after kitchen, and they had also, over their ownership, updated the bathroom. Also, medium density zoning, which is the absolute gold in Whangarei, because you can have several incomes or builds per title without needing resource consent. Here's a couple of photos. Bathroom to the left is the main bathroom. Modern, not fancy, but modern, and upgraded from original at least. Carpet, walls, curtains, we didn't need to touch. As I say, the kitchen was somewhat original, but actually really well maintained. The gold, which if you saw on the email, is actually about, I call it the opportunity, and I know for a lot of buyers it's actually a deterrent. So an unconsented bathroom, or you'll see unconsented works somewhere in a property you're looking at. Yeah. Do you find this is...
We do see it from time to time, and some of it, as a first-time buyer and you've got a low deposit, it's just not for them. There's too much risk. The bank throws up too many hurdles. It's just not going to happen. But as a seasoned investor, you can go, well, yeah, there's something there that's not quite right. Are you going through a main bank, or are you going non-bank? Can you see through it? Can you get it? Can you fix it? You resolve it. Safe and sanitary is one of those sort of things that if it's done to a workman-like standard, then often you can maybe settle with a non-bank, get it fixed, get it remediated, and get it back to a main bank within that sort of three-month period.
Just a question, with first-home buyers, is it that they decide it's a bit unknown territory, or is it the lender? Who goes first?
It's normally the lender, with owner-occupied, so with low deposits or any bank, they don't like things that might mess with the insurance. If something goes wrong, will the insurance pay? If the insurance won't pay, then why would the bank take that unnecessary risk? Unless you can either clearly demonstrate that it'll be resolved at time of settlement, or you've got the means to be able to get it really repaired easily. Normally that means you've got at least a 20% deposit plus a bucket of cash to go and fix it. It just doesn't suit first-time buyers every time. They're going to find something else that's fairly straightforward,
And whether it's a first-home buyer or someone who has not renovated before, I think having the ability, or the people you can lean on to understand that is not a deterrent, right? When I saw this, I thought, okay, we got this on contract. It was below market as it stood. It was double glazed. It was actually over-spec for what we were purchasing. Uncovering that it was unconsented was actually the goal, because there are two options at that point. Either we remove and move on and go for a lesser return, or we inquire and ask the right questions of the local council. I just want to be super clear. There are a couple of recent case studies that I've popped up on social media where we have added bathrooms without consent. And I want to clarify, this is without needing consent. In all instances, we work with the council to do it the correct way, and they have signed off. So
nothing worse than
it's not untoward. They don't need it on my back, thank you. So in this case, what we found was the hack was, in this case, doubling the number of bedrooms and doubling the number of bathrooms without needing consent. And again, The goal was always to achieve a 7% return. The very basic drawing to the left is actually off the limb. This is drawings from the original build, if this tells you what 1950s or 60s plans looks like.
Yeah, the old ruler,
So you'll see
right, mate. Yeah, look at that.
up the top, laundry. So this is where the second shower and vanity you saw were. Image to the left is the updated professional drawing. So what I want to explain is, here, when you ask the right questions, this is where you uncover an opportunity that most are scared away from.
Yeah.
In this case, I called the council, asked them, okay, so what is the cost? And actually the catalyst for that call was that they'd changed the information on the website. A consent for this type of scope, adding a second shower and toilet, because who needs a vanity when you already have a tub and a washing machine, usually requires building consent. The fee has historically been around $5,000 for that value of works.
Yeah.
They actually said, well, hang on a minute. Actually, if you do X, Y, Z, which is the list here, the fee is $504. That's a 90% discount to go with a building consent exemption. So write this down or take a shot. It is the building consent exemption process that will save you 90%.
Yeah.
This is the hack, okay, guys? So they signed this off. They said, do it this way. Basically, all you need, well, I don't want to oversimplify, but what you need is professional drawings, as you see on the left, have someone who knows a thing or two and can draw to scale, and the list of your professionals or your power team. So in this case, builder, electrician and plumber, and with their registration numbers was enough to say, okay, rather than a 20 workday turnaround as a consent, this was a 5 to 10 workday sign off. And the reason the $504 fee applied is that there are no inspections. They say, yes, we agree with your plan. It shows that you're doing it professionally. Get on with the job. Part 2 to the hack is around doubling the bedrooms. I'm moving on, but because we have time constraints. But just, I hope you screenshotted that, because that is honestly the question that most don't ask. In this case, this is all to do with the 10 to 30 square metre ancillary dwelling. It's a sleep out, cabin, workspace, whatever you want that is detached. Go to building.gov.nz, as we've put there. The height of the cabin is how far it must be spaced from the property. That's basically the main criteria.
Yeah.
A couple of other things there as well. No plumbing. This is not en suites, kitchenettes, kitchens. Kitchen and kitchenette, by the way. I'm not sure what the distinction is. None of that.
Yeah, you got to be careful. But yeah, and we're seeing a lot of that where people go and chuck a cabin onto it. It's an extra bedroom. You've got a large family. You need to house them.
Yeah.
Create that nice deck between the cabin and the house, and it's just like.
And it's an awesome solution, because usually with cashflow hacking, we're trying to find an internal bedroom. What we were doing was working with an amazing off-market opportunity and trying to work out which features nudged us towards finding a solution. And in this case, we couldn't add an internal room. It was a 2-bedroom, 95 square metre house. Normally that works, but we found the ranch slider, a deck that would be perfect. So what we did was aimed for external bedrooms based on that. Oh, hang on, what have we got here? I've given away the results. Basically, through external bedrooms, which you'll see shortly on the slide, we doubled the number of bedrooms using an external solution. So again, if you went to that website, you would see that you were able to add up to 30 square metres. And now if we're talking, how large is a bedroom? 10 square metres is considered a double bedroom. It is a large room. You could potentially have, if you had the right property, and I really would love to see someone do this because I've never gone more than 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, custom on-site build in this case, double wardrobes here. The result was a $650 a week rent, and a couple of images here so you can see. Okay, so within 5 weeks, top left is the original house, but what was cleverly done by our investors here, they matched the colour steel to the house, did not need consent. Again, this is on-site build. You can buy many prefab options, but here was built on-site. The total renovation, including the on-site 2-bedroom cabin, the full consent turnaround to create the second bathroom, we actually had to upgrade a lot of things that weren't there because it was owner-occupied. Insulation, we had to move a meter board because it was now a wet area, and in fact, you'll see bottom left there, the original bathroom and toilet, although modern, needed more flooring. Around about $78,000 or so for the absolutely everything is an incredible way to add not only more square meters to the livable space, but it's a really cost-effective way. Like how else can you add 2 bedrooms in 5 weeks?
Oh, absolutely. And then, as you're probably going to go on to say, or would say, is that not only have you got the increased rent floor space, you've got the increased value that you can use for that sort of recycling to get into that next deal as well. So
yeah, for sure. Here's the before and after. So this was the unconsented original laundry converted shower and vanity. We looked at this and said, well, what's the value of a vanity when you already have a washing tub? So this is completely
double up, look at
replaced. I mean, I'd rather have a second
that.
toilet than a
Isn't
second
horse
vanity.
troughs these days down there? Yeah.
Okay, so new laundry tub. Okay, fine. All right, poll 2. Okay, so we're going to stop here for a second. Poll here.
Hold it. Yeah.
Okay. Where are you at? Are you looking for better cash flow through improving what you already own? Is this a solution you could adapt? Are you looking to buy or sell? Oh gosh, okay, awesome. Everyone's gearing up to buy.
Yeah, there's less people there looking to sell, which is positive. Looking to improve what they've got, but buy something else. So nice. Cool. Nearly there.
Oh, more people joining. Awesome. By the way, if you have joined recently, I just see that number's upticked. So if you've missed the beginning, we will issue the replay tomorrow so you can see what you've missed as well.
There we go.
Okay.
Right. Pretty much there.
Submit your answers. Okay. 2/3 are looking to buy. That's awesome.
Yep.
Sell is 4%.
Very,
Love this.
very
Okay.
low, very
and even
low.
if you thought you might be looking to sell, hopefully you've got something here where you can
Hold the line.
hold it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's go. Okay.
Cool. All right, let's kick on with it. So, I mean, what that's clearly saying is that we're all more or less looking at how we can buy something. What do we need to do? What are we actually going to buy? And if we're going to buy something, how is it going to produce the income to cover the debt, especially in this high rate interest rate environment, the 6.85 for 1 year under resi terms. But
And that's actually the kicker rate. So if the interest rate is 6.8% and your initial return is 4 or 5, basic math shows that that's massively negatively geared.
Yeah.
I think in this case, it was an owner-occupied property with a motivated vendor. All of those, I call them qualitative aspects. So what is the situation you're buying into to get the most opportunity out of? It was a 7.9% return. So basically an 8% return by putting in an extra 5 weeks of effort that in fact for them, Eva and Joe had never left where they briefed the team from. And in Whangarei, everyone else added that value, and it's something that I always want to remind my investors is you never take for granted the value you get from your power team, because they are the ones literally creating your future. And I might be getting philosophical, but I get quite like when I think about how much they do for us, it's actually that's it, right? Focus where you want to learn the numbers and build your expertise and let them get on with what they're great
Get good at delegating, or get good at knowing what to ask and who to put in touch. It's the whole adage of no one's going to turn up to your house and make you rich, but you can certainly employ people to make it a little bit easier. So
leverage.
All right,
Cool.
case study
So
number
let's
2.
crack into the next one. Now, this is a little bit more niche. Appreciate that not everyone is interested in this type of property, but I do know from where I've shared this on social media, so many investors said, oh man, I looked at that and I couldn't work out what to do with it.
Yeah.
Really what I want us to focus on is actually in this case, and in many similar, whether it's on 4 standalone A-frames or however it shows up, when you get into multi-unit properties, you are going down a rabbit hole of making sure you have the right people on your side, and largely that comes down to the finance. I talk about Jess here just briefly because Jess is a client through Wolfe Property. At least we've done several deals, and probably 18 months ago ran a webinar about what Jess achieved. I'll take you through that journey, and it's a great illustration of why needing the right lending solution can make or break a deal, and that's really what this example is about. Jess, if you're there, which I hope you're feeling better and able to watch, awesome for joining. Also not naming names, but I hope everyone in Boardroom Accelerate is taking notes.
Absolutely. Look at that. So you sold the property, Auckland townhouse.
So when Jess and I met in 2022, she had a $1.5 million in debt townhouse in Auckland. And that was all great. And I remember her saying to me, look, we thought we were doing a great job. It was getting $700 a week or so in rent per week. And she bit the bullet, not my advice, but she had worked out herself. this is probably not the best efficiency of debt of 1.5 milli. Now, she sold that. We waited on the sides. She sold it and said, look, what can I recycle this into? And she had a great lending arrangement to leverage at the time. For less than that same 1.5 million completed, renovated, with several $100,000 of cash left over to spare, she replaced what was on in the left of your screen, with a block of 4 units. 3 of the 4, this is in Dunedin in fact, and there is an interesting sort of bylaw there. 3 of those 4 units were converted from 2-beddies to 3.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so awesome. It's a really great example to challenge yourself, and this is what I constantly am mentored to do is, okay, of my asset base, is the debt working hard or is it lazy? That's how I think about it. You know, it's not about interest rates. Is if I took this 1.5 of debt and I put it somewhere else, would I get a stronger cash flow return or not?
Yeah.
Just as a sidestep though because I think this is also a good illustration of new builds versus existing, just to talk through, because I know we're focusing on existing builds, but to, I guess, give us some contrast and comparison. Do you want to talk a bit about this, AJ? Yeah,
I mean, I'll quickly whip over it, but I mean, new build properties, they don't suit everyone, but they do certainly suit lots of people. Low maintenance, you've got the building warranties, landscaping's done, we've got it all there. Nothing really needs to be done. It's turnkey as they called. Key, turn it, you move in. You can often get in there with as low as a 10% deposit on a standalone with some of the banks for an investment property, new build, under the exemption criteria, right? Rental appraisals there, it's all sort of
interest deductibility.
Interest
from the get-go.
Deductibility under the previous policies, 100% versus in situ properties, which became 0 effectively in 2021.
I was going to say, like, depending on where you are in your investing life as well, right? So what I notice is, you know, depending on what time and energy you want to give to your property investing life, could be that you want results over time as opposed to forcing.
Exactly. You know, and they suit people who have either only got 10% deposit or 20% deposit. They don't have a lot of time. They've got reasonable income. Doctors and nurses, lawyers, people with reasonably high income. And, you know, they're just simply busy and they don't know enough. And there are lots of, you know...
Want the benefits, but more hands-off.
Want the benefits, but they just don't really want to have hands-on, have to renovate, think about multi-units, deal with multiple banks. Yeah, it suits them.
And the thing is, what I wanted to illustrate on the slide is that, you know, I've kind of put them side by side. So the benefit, if you're looking for builder warranties, low maintenance, new builds are great for that. Equally, though, if you're trying to force a faster accumulation of properties, it can be a double-edged sword, right? Because often who comes to chat with me at the moment is investors who they have very high incomes and they have these turnkey properties. Unfortunately for them, the last sort of bullet points on the right there, they are faced with right now. They thought they were in a good position because they had high incomes. They could deal with some of this current negative gearing. But it's actually the lower income households within owning properties in the same complex that are dropping price and rental returns, and that's impacting. So I think really this is about highlighting if you can differentiate your property through adding value, not only does it buffer an increased value or wealth and to give you some buffer as opposed to reducing or losing your hard-earned capital or equity, but it gives you potentially another option to exit on rather than be governed by the latest rental price or sale value of an identical unit in the block. Yeah,
you're absolutely. If you've got 60 units in Henderson all being sold at a certain price, eventually, you know, somebody may sell, but you've got 59 other units sold at a price, and it's going to take a wee while for that potentially to recover and for you to be able to recycle it. So although you might have only gone in there with 20% or 10%, depending on bank policy, it's going to take a long time to be able to recycle that equity.
Right. And that's something out of your control, right? So I think this is where I'm a bit of a control freak. I want to control my returns rather than think about that. So if we jump into multi-unit, so let's say Jess has replaced her new build townhouse with a multi-unit property. AJ, what are the main considerations when it comes to getting the lending right or the finance right for a multi-unit deal?
Yeah, so I mean the key consideration here, guys, is that not all banks have the same policy. Certain banks are going, hey, you want more than 3 units on one title, that's great, but it's commercial, 15 years, P&I, commercial rates, pay us a fee, you can do it. Other banks might go, well, it's kind of blended. We'll do 25 years with a bit of interest only, but you're going to pay us commercial rates and you're going to pay us a 1% fee, thank you very much. And then there are other banks that go, yeah, we love this. This is our bread and butter. You get to the end of the road and they're like, well, we love it, but we don't love this little piece. It actually turns out that because it's certain square meterage, we're going to treat it as an apartment, and because half of it's less than 35 squares or 38 or whatever it is, we're going to tar it with the same brush, and now you have to come in with a 50% deposit. So everything's subject to review. Not all banks are the same with multis, and I guess the key thing is that it may take a bit of time and multiple lending applications, frustration, and the requirement to come up with a bit more, cash into the deal. Maybe the valuation is less than the purchase price, so you've got to negotiate. You've really got to work these things to work in your favour and not necessarily accept the first offer. Oh, hey, it's 50% LVR, but we'll give you residential rates, but you've got to come in with, a small fortune to make it all work.
If you're reading between the lines here, it's about more time, more complexity equals more time and more considerations, right?
And that stress, if you're not built for it, it's maybe not for you. You've got to be able to roll the punches, so to speak.
We are getting to that serious territory where you're trying to climb and accumulate, either with pace or your goal is substantial, that you're looking to buy a deal with higher efficiency. Again, DTI considerations, like how efficient can you buy your next property or create it to be. In a really basic summary, illustratively here, the townhouse, its actual return for Jess was 2.4% gross yield. Okay, so that's what her Auckland townhouse, that's how it performed. She sold that, replaced it with less debt for the 4 units in the South Island in Dunedin. Amazing return. She added rooms to 3 of the 4 units. And now we're about to talk about what she bought next. So this is
this is the headline act.
So here's some images, which is a really great example of a unique property. So I have never come across one like this. Every new deal is a new challenge, especially for AJ brokers on the lending for this side of things. You'll often hear, if it's more than 4 incomes per title, or 5, it's sort of that 4 or 5 incomes per title. It's commercial lending.
Depends on the bank, depends on which way the wind's blowing in the commercial.
And I can definitely say that all of the boardroom deals, or the multi-unit deals that I've worked with, they're all on residential pricing. It comes down to time, information, how you mitigate the deal, how that can be presented to the right lender for you. This is, it was not the most dilapidated, under-rented property. The motivation here was to create another double-digit returning property with the most cost-effective budget possible. This was on market. Some of you definitely will recognise it. It's quite distinctive.
It. I'm like, man, that would be a great buy.
I brought it to you and you're like, just get it under contract. We're like, cool. And actually on that note, if we do go into the lending, which let's do that, because the initial contracted price, based on it being so competitive and such a flurry, this was on DD for 3 months. 3 months, which also tells you that when you have a property that is that unique, the vendor is just as much vested in you going through as you are. So deal finance ABC, what happened here?
Absolutely, yeah. So without going into too much specifics, we went to Bank A, and it, as I sort of mentioned before, like it was within this sort of wheelhouse, sounded pretty good. They were happy with it. We had the residential approval, residential terms, 30 years, 5 years interest only, 60% LVR, happy days. Caught out on the policy at the end. Hey, turns out that because we've got 4 little
studios,
little studios at the top of each of these buildings, technically we're going to class it as apartments, and therefore we're only getting 50%. So that was. And
not everyone has a 10% of extra cash to tip in, right?
Kicking around. I mean, you see the purchase price. Who's got that lying around? Plus, if you need to do any renovations, pay legal fees, pay valuation fees, everything in between. With any of our lending applications, we like to think about, 2-bank policy. So we're always submitting stuff to a couple of banks. So we've got 2 horses in the race, so to speak. And the second bank came back and said, hey, we can do 65%. That's not a problem. And we'll even give you a little commercial boost to help fund the renovations. It's like, commercial boost. Yeah, well, we're going to treat it as a commercial property. So, okay, well, hang on. That's it's probably not going to help with the commercial cash flow. And they said, well, by the way, this is our policy. We're also going to charge you a fee because it's a commercial loan. So they're going to charge us a fee to be able to do it, and we're going to get the benefits of having commercial rates, which might be, let's just say, 1% on top of the standard advertised rates. And it's like, okay. Yep,
Does that
all
work?
right, good. Yeah, it's good to have it there. Like, you might go, well, we'll settle for that. That sounds good. That's better than a non-bank finance company where it might be in the 12s, plus the fees, plus the broker, and it might only be valid for a couple of years.
Exactly.
But we didn't stop there because, well, why would we? So Bank C took a little bit longer to come back to the party. A lot of sort of mitigation, a lot of talking about it and who the people are and how it all goes well.
And keep in mind, these things come to light as you think. You know the property, you've done your DD, building report, LIM,
Valuation.
renovation, scoping, costs, and then it's the bank who then says, hang on a minute, these studios are 27 square metres or 29, whatever it is, it's 1 square metre. The image on the right,
it's not within policy.
The image on the right is an actual exploration that Jess and I went down. This is one of her solutions. We were finding ways to increase the size of the studios to comply to get out of. So this is part of, I guess what we're saying is it's a wave. So, you get a hurdle. You have to have that grit to go, okay, find solution. And this is the type of property project where you need to be of that mindset. When they say you need to be 30 square metres and you find out your studios are 29, how do I get 2 square metres? Well, I'm going to look at ideas like this.
Can we bend the doors? Can we chuck a tarpaulin out over there? But no, I think the easiest solution is to look at a lender who's going to see through that and pass that and go, you know what, we're going to lend on here. So the final outcome, just to cut to the chase, is 30-year term, 5 years interest only, residential interest rates,
amazing,
and a cash contribution that helps cover the legal, some of the valuation costs. And instead of paying a 1% fee, they were able to give you cash back.
That's the difference. So Bank B wanted to charge a fee.
Commercial
Bank
term.
C said, we will give you cash so you can get the deal done. That's awesome.
And in the mix, of course, as I say, we've got finance companies who do it, bigger fees, bigger costs, and it just eats your profit, and it creates a downstream thing, downstream, not issue, but process where we've now got to then go through and refinance it back out.
And that's the thing, right? So this is hopefully really giving you food for thought around how much more detail goes into the due diligence of a property of this nature, whether it's under 4 different A-frame roof lines like this, or you have 6, 8, 10, gosh, what's my most recent one? 11 dwellings per one title, still on residential pricing, mapping your personal situation and the property to the right lender to maintain ideally a residential rate. Because if you're creating a double-digit return, so in this case 10.2, did I just spoil alert? 10.2% return. Okay, the difference is if you can get on a 6.8% 6.8% interest rate versus a 9? What's a commercial rate? 9?
Oh, yeah, 9. Depends, spin the wheel, lands on this.
Less a few costs, you're neutral, okay? But if you can stick to that 6.8, you're in positive gearing territory, cash flow. Here, the goal was, this was a property that was not in total disrepair or well below market. We are all at 8 rentals here, so 4 one-bedrooms, 4 studios. In the end, through AJ's finance mastership, we found residential pricing and to get a bank to love this property. The focus was actually, though, because knowing that was a sensitive aspect of the property, the motivation really became around how do we enhance or increase the function and appeal of the studios, which is the lower level aspect of the property. In the background image here, you see the upper floor, which also has a mezzanine 1-bedroom units. So tapping into the deal is one thing, but also understanding the context of the deal and the market and the rental demand is also critical. So leaning on the property managers who can tell you, actually that's not at all in demand, we have a surplus to the market, or we actually are so short. When I list a studio or a 1-bedroom, I have people lining up around the door and 30 applications. These are the insights you need to know before you go unconditional. Now, in this case, around about 200,000 or so divided by 8 incomes or rentals, dwellings, that's a really cost-effective, going for 25K per unit is a really, really great spend in terms of achieving a top market rent. We're going for the upper quartile of the market rent. That's a really light spend, in my opinion, compared to what we typically would invest. So a really great, bang for buck, I would say. In this case, motivated vendor who also knew through this 3-month extension of due diligence that they actually admitted it was the same for them when they bought the property. They're just as much on the hook as you are going in. They don't want to lose you. $200,000 down on that negotiation to get to 1.51 was an incredible result. Now, the way that we always talk about these deals, or at least how I do as Wolfe Property, is that we talk about the assumption of a 100% purchase price. That might be 35% on your deposit on another property, 65, which could be 70 shortly, on the purchase, but also the renovation debt. The only reason you would renovate and add to the debt is to make the overall debt on that property more efficient, because why would you bother loading up more debt to get the same or less result? It doesn't make any sense, right?
It's madness.
So if you're going to do that, it's because you're looking to make it more efficient, less lazy. Now, if we just do a quick recap, 1.5 million debt on the original townhouse, had 700 a week of rent.
700 per week,
This entire block of 8 after the renovation has a 1.5 million. So what I've done there is show if you included the $200,000 of renovation spend to make it roughly 1.7 or so million of debt, the return on all of that debt is 10.2%.
Pretty damn good.
Which is good. Okay, so what we're saying here is we're swapping out, $700 a week in rent from the townhouse. Jess has gone and bought 4. They're over 10% return. She's now gone and bought the 8, and both of these properties. So she has 4 units in the South Island, 8 units in the capital city, and this specific property, that 700, which was a townhouse, is actually almost 3,400 a week.
Yeah, that's outstanding. When you put it like that, it just the two together, one property, 700, 1.5, this one, 8 dwellings, 3,380. I mean,
this is what gets me excited.
I mean, you just look at the numbers and you go, well, a lot harder to go and buy 8 units and go through this process, but the result's worth it.
This is the thing, to get a better return, it's not the same effort as the average. That's the whole point. It's not easy. Definitely don't want to oversimplify. In their reality, they actually paid for the renovation. They have capital. So in their situation, their return is higher. So in terms of the debt, if the debt is 1.51 and they get that cash flow return, they've paid for the renovation out of funds. However, they've been able to, their return on the debt is 11.6. So, that versus one townhouse, it's night and day.
Yeah.
Here's a couple of images, and I just want to highlight, by the way, the best value add that I have seen on a property like this actually truly is in the landscaping, and I can genuinely say this is for the first time, landscaping has played a massive part. So these studios were appraised by various managers at around $350 per week, $375. Also included some social housing providers, because Jess, with her other property, it is occupied by a CHIP housing provider. They said, no, we can't pay whatever you want, which was $395 on the studios. All of us on site, property manager who was chosen, Jess, myself, the build team, we worked out how to enhance the entire living area. So the middle image shows you courtyard, clothesline, shed, area for the bins off out of sight, and you can see on the left an incredible amount of privatisation of each space. Those were 300 and something per week previously. They all signed up on the first viewing a couple of weeks ago for $395. Which is insane. For 29 square metres. And upstairs, those decks are original, reinforced at the top, but with a clean house wash, guys. If you're going to list a house, this is honestly better than a paint ROI. The timber down the bottom is new, timber up top is washed. So just simply washing it actually massively lifted what looked horrific before.
Make it clean, yeah. Why would you live in something that's filthy? If it's nice, clean, comfortable, dry, warm, you're more likely to pay a premium for it, because...
Appeal, right? All you need to do when you're presenting something to the sale market or rental market is ascend results and trade me and work out where you sit, what's inferior versus what's superior. And if you can move yourself up the scale, you can command a higher premium. Some of those internal shots Really cost effective. We kept the kitchens. These aren't new kitchens. Stainless definitely prevails in my opinion. We upgraded handles. The tables you can see are actually built in. These kitchens were really large, even for the studios. And so Jess actually said, hey, look, let's just actually help them with function. Often these types of tenants don't have a lot of possession, so we were actually helping them use the space. So she picked and chose where to spend the dollars. Want to highlight here, we talked about before cash flow and after. So this is the cash flow. This is actually assuming the whole lot was debt. In her reality, it wasn't. They put cash in for the reno. This is giving her post-tax over $1,000 per month in the hand. So it's about $14,000 per annum in year one, which shows you that with that residential pricing, this is what you get. This is your payday.
Yeah, it's simple as that, right?
But equally, if you didn't have that right set lending solution, if we'd stayed with what, bank A, no, sorry, this is commercial lending. If we'd gone with bank, was it B?
We go bank B, yep.
This was a 20K top up in year one, almost. So we've gone 14K positively geared with actual, or 19,000 top
Day
up.
one, just by forcing, well, not forcing it, but by just keep looking, keep pursuing the rate that's going to be more beneficial. And, you know, it's having that time grit, the ability to sort of hang in there, to not just sort of give up on the first hurdle or you know, continue to negotiate, which is just amazing. So
Another poll. Forgot what it was.
All
So where are we going here?
Just while you're pulling that up, sorry, a couple of quick considerations here, just for these sort of multi-deals. They're not really, well, not really, they're not for the faint-hearted. There are challenges left, right and centre. You may have, you know, be thinking that, yeah, it'll be fine, just go and do it, and then something throws itself in the path. You've got to be able to roll with it.
Every time.
Every time. You want to make sure that there's enough time, you've got enough income, you've got your exit plans, you've really thought about it to be able to pursue and go ahead with it. You may have to change tack, you may have to let go of sunk costs, you may pay $3,000, $5,000, whatever for evaluation.
That's a good point.
Or a building report or whatever, and if it's not suitable, you've got to not give up, but walk away or just do it all over again, perhaps.
Accepting, right? You're accepting those sunk costs.
It's all part and parcel of it. If you can't handle it, you know, maybe it's not for you. I've got a note here, don't go unconditional without finance. It's just not a done thing. You want to be able to make sure that you're building in enough time into your due diligence. Not every property has to have 10 days due diligence. Not every property has to do 15 or something like this. You want maybe 30 days. It's effectively a commercial residential property. So you want to make sure you're ticking all the boxes, having enough time to be organised.
To get the right solution, right? Because as you can see, it's if you take that risk and you're forced to settle, you choose to go unconditional, you settle, you may be left with the second graph.
Yeah.
If you give yourself the ability to get the first, then you're far better off long term.
Yep, absolutely. Make it work for you. Remember, the vendors are wanting to sell it just as much as you're wanting to buy it. So don't feel as if you're sort of forced into a pigeonhole where it's a standard residential property, because it just simply isn't. Reach out, get your power team, do your checks and your balance.
Balances?
There it is.
He said it.
I said it here. But anyway, make sure you give yourself enough time to be able to go and get organised. And same with a settlement, if you've got to give vacant possession, don't be forced to take the tenants there necessarily.
There are lots of different ways to make the scenario work, right, based on you, and also give those opportunities, the tenants the opportunity to come with you on the journey. In this case, half the tenants stayed on based on what they knew Jess was going to do and the rents they were going to get because they loved that property. And they came on that journey, which I think is a new lesson for us as well. We tend to think, okay, major renovation, give 90 days. Why not give them the other option? Because if they're great tenants anyway, then why wouldn't you keep them if from a credit point of view, they still fit the bill?
Renovate a property, go, hey, look, we're doing this for you. It's going to be warmer, drier, more comfortable. If you're happy to pay a little bit more, we'll just move you from here to there and you can take it back.
Compared to how they were living before, oftentimes as well.
Oh, yeah, it's remarkable. But anyway, poll time.
Should we jump into poll number 3? Oh, hang on, is that working? Yep, here we go. Cool. Okay, guys, we're very close to taking your Q&A.
Yeah, nearly done here, guys. I know that's probably a bit longer than what we've anticipated, so appreciate you hanging out here.
Some good nuggets that you've hopefully screenshot.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. 10 more seconds. Okay, so 3/4 of you are more with a budget of looking at the first deal versus the second. That's about what, is that what you'd expect?
Yeah. The multis, as I say,
Not
they
for
do
everyone.
take a lot longer. They are quite capital intensive, and you got to have a fairly patient outlook on it. But cool.
Oh, alrighty. Awesome. Okay, let's crack on. We've done that. So now look, hey, just before we get into giving you the opportunity to click for a call with each of us, quick rundown of what we can offer from a Wolfe Property and Lighthouse Financial standpoint. Jump onto my website. It's all out there in the public domain, whether you're looking at the first deal, which is an accelerate type deal on the left, or boardroom, which is a multi-unit on the right. You can use this, find this graph on the website. So I won't go into too much detail here, but everything is available for you to see. Otherwise, you click to have a call with myself and we can go through your specific situation. Now, AJ, outside of the finance and lending, what can Lighthouse offer?
Yeah, so, I mean, hopefully a few of you have heard about us, but we've got accounting, so property investor, specialise in exactly that, so for property investors, small business, GST and what have you. There's wealth there, so that does Lighthouse Wealth, does insurance and risk protection insurance, keep you safe and stuff like that. And of course mortgages, so first home, next home, restructures, refinance, and there's multi-unit properties, which I enjoy doing. They're a nice challenge. Yeah, I do. I honestly do, because they're different.
There's more coming. Good.
All right.
Cool. So wealth, accounting and mortgages, full suite.
Sweet.
Actually, I found this really cool photo. So hopefully you're watching. We had fake names at one event. I won't throw you under, but you can see yourselves there.
Yeah, turn it up. Here we go.
What are our
Come
clients
on.
saying? I love the bottom left. I'm running out of time to spend all the money you're making me. If that's the outcome, then I'm all here for it to help you and more of you get the same thing.
I'd love that, yeah.
Okay, cool. So if you are this type of person in terms of strategy for how you want to invest, not at all on the tools. We're talking about leaning on power teams. We're talking about accelerating your goals, results towards your ultimate goal, is very separate from an investor who wants to be that townhouse or that new build person. And if that is you, that's absolutely fine. That's probably a slightly different path that you need to go down. Can definitely give you some awesome people to go speak with if that's the case. Oh, we have one more poll, and that is basically getting us to, where are we here?
Last poll and a bit of Q&A,
Last
and then
poll
we'll
and
let you enjoy the rest of your evening.
What's up, Wednesday? Should we call it Webby, is it bad? Webby Wednesday? I was like,
Webinar
is
Wednesday?
it Webby Wednesday?
I don't know.
Popped into my head.
Make a t-shirt. Yeah.
Ravi, give us a logo. He's cringing.
Wednesday
Okay,
webinars,
don't give us a logo.
Okay, yeah, let's stop that. It's a good thing we're not in marketing. Not marketing, we're out.
He's like, I'm detached from both of you.
Yeah,
would you like to?
Stop building.
Would you like to book in a time? Okay, cool.
All right,
Awesome. Yeah, if your returns are too good, don't listen to anything. If you're looking for better returns, we'd love to have a chat with you, in all seriousness. Thanks, guys. Now, we are going to, let's see if I can work out how we go to Q&A. I'm just going to go, I don't need to go into any screens, really. I'm going to open up Q&A. Okay. Would you like me to read out? Let's see, what have we got? Finance questions. What is the current LVR for an investment property from the main bank? From main banks. So these are your questions. Anything top of mind you want to share?
Yeah, jump in there.
Jump in there.
We'll do a few of these and then we'll sort of wrap it up.
Got about 10 minutes for questions, guys. So
10 minutes. So the current LVR for investment property for main banks, again, it depends on whether or not it's an investment property or an in situ.
when you say in situ, do you mean owner occupied?
Well, okay, so owner occupied up to 80%. Obviously, first home you can go up to 95% LVR with some banks. Everything's obviously subject to approval and all that, depending on the bank. Investment property, let's assume that people are asking about investment properties. So currently it's 65% LVR. As of the 1st of July, that's going to 70. There are those exemptions. So some banks, standalone investment property, you can get in there with a 10% deposit. Bearing in mind that if you've got less than a 20% deposit, you're going to end up paying low equity premium on investment properties, and it just might not work out.
Is that still the LEM, low equity margin?
Yeah, low equity margin
Good
or
old
a low
acronyms.
equity premium or whatever they want to call it. It's just an extra either fee or an interest rate that they'll tack onto your rate. So general advice, come on with 20% deposit if you can. You're going to get better returns on your money, and there's better cash back and so on and so forth. So we'll
Fresh info on the 1st of July to help you work out where you're at.
Yeah.
Can you use an entity such as a trust to get around the DTI thresholds?
I doubt it.
Anonymous.
I doubt it, Mr. Anonymous attendee.
No. Is it holistic within, cross-collateralized or cross-guaranteed entities? It's a total picture, correct?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not the expert per
It's a great
se.
question.
Have a look at the Reserve Bank website. I would tend to say, no, you're not going to get around it. The only way you're going to get around it by that is just trying to withhold that information from a lender, and that's like the worst thing you can do, because either they'll find out and then you've got a problem, or they'll find out and you've got a problem.
Just be truthful.
Anyway,
just be truthful.
Let's not worry about that.
That's easier.
DTI is there. I'm sure there'll be amendments. There are exemptions. Have a look at on the Reserve Bank website.
I would like a financial plan. I know who you are. I can connect you with the best. So I will come back to you on that specific question. So will this be recorded and emailed out? Yes, it will be. So you can rewatch for sure.
Cool.
Okay, what is your opinion on adding a 2-bedroom square metre granny flat? So as a granny flat, that's separate from in the first example, we talked about bedrooms as part of the same dwelling. That's a good key point to make, or distinction to make. The 2 bedrooms added in the first case study were part of the same residence or the same tenancy agreement. Adding a 2-bedroom 60 square metre granny flat is an awesome way to increase returns on a property, which you can only do with an existing property or existing piece of land, and you need to check what the planning rules are for your specific site. But where you're not having to buy more land to put that onto as an additional dwelling, that is one of the cheapest way to get another piece that is going to give you a greater sum of its parts to boost cash flow.
Yeah.
Do
And
you
I
want
mean,
to add anything to that?
I guess, depending on your LVR or existing debt, there are instances where we might be able to go to the bank and go, hey, look, the property, we might be at, 80% or 75%. We need a small amount of money, but the amount that we invest into building that granny flat is, the future value of the built property may be greater than what you actually spend on it, which means that you can actually leverage it and do it. Again, that comes down to, subject to credit approval, age and stage and all that usual stuff, but we have been successful in doing that in the past, where look at the future value, how much it's going to cost, does it work within the limits of the LVR, does it make sense to the bank, does it make sense to you, and potentially we can look at that.
Also, if you have cash, these types of 60 square metre builds are really cost effective, again, because you're not buying land. One of my favourite strategies, and certainly one I've adopted from day one, in fact, was my first couple of purchases were home and income properties, and the efficiency of those. We talk about creating an 8% return on a standalone. A home and income that you add value to, or if you add a 60 square metre onto it, you can get it towards a 9.5% return. And often they're $100,000 to $200,000. It's an amazing uplift to create a more efficient property by adding that on. But you do need to involve the council for that at this stage.
Yeah. And you also got to jump through the hoops that the bank's going to require. So,
Are your clients paying P&I interest only? So, from my point of view, what I can say is that I may have 1 or 2, but I would say 99.9% are on interest only. That's a complete personal choice and for them to work out with their advisor. But if you're in an actively building stage for your portfolio, more likely when you see the contrast of those cash flows, you're going to opt for interest only. I'm personally a big fan of that for many reasons, but it definitely does help support if the goal is to keep acquiring more property.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's considerations for lending there as well. Banks going to look at, can you afford that same loan after the interest-only periods? In other words, if you could afford it under P&I over 30 years versus 5 years interest only, they'll look at that 25-year remaining and determine whether or not you can afford it under the current rules. We also go, hey, well, what are you doing with the surplus income or the surplus principal that you're not repaying? you're going to keep paying, interest on interest for 5 years? Are you actually better off to go and pay down debt? What other debt you can retire? Again, it depends on your situation. We work closely with the team at Lighthouse Wealth, with James and Co, and they can actually sort of step it out a lot more detail to go, well, you probably should actually pay it down, or maybe not take the full 5 years interest only, maybe take 2. So,
I think also it comes down to different exit strategies you might have, right? So personally speaking for myself, is that if my entire portfolio is existing builds that I know are subdivisible, separate to the fact I've maximised the returns on the dwellings or the rentals, if I wanted, like I don't plan to personally pay down debt, I'd rather find other strategies. So for me, a lot of the properties are subdivisible. I could in future invest a little more cash, subdivide the land, sell the land. By the time it's 10, 20, 30 years down the track, the value of that land will retire the original debt on many of those properties and leave me with the rental, the income incurring part of that property, which is the original existing build. So that's a large part of my personal strategy as an idea. What else stands out for you?
I mean, there's lots of questions there.
Yeah,
I see one
wow.
there from Ollie. I'll
I'm
have a
hoping we
chat to you
can
offline.
save all these. I wonder if we can save.
Maybe we can actually come back and answer them.
Yeah, we can save all the
directly.
questions. I think we might do a Q&A. Actually, there's a ton.
What else?
Turnaround time. Okay, so standalone property for renovation, 5 to 6, sometimes 7 weeks. Interestingly, I should have pointed this out. A multi is not X number of times multiple, so it's actually usually 8 to 10. So in terms of effort, it's more about access and streamlining so the builders and the team can get through and actually maximise, but it's only a week or so longer. Oh, I recognise that name.
Yeah.
Is it common purchase prices are as low as 350? Yes. Oh my gosh, so many opportunities. Keep getting your face and your name in front of agents where you're looking to buy as often as possible. The more you can stay top of mind for them, they will call you when those opportunities come up, much in the same way to a sort of different scale. But when I take my clients up to, Whangarei or other regional towns, they'll say, hey, look, are you bringing your buyers? Let me show you through XYZ properties and you can tell me if you want them. So it's kind of relationships and getting your face in front of them. And when they know you're serious and you know what you're looking for, they can send you what's suitable.
Yeah,
but definitely.
We're still seeing a ton of it, and I think we're going to find that a lot more of them come back.
Yeah.
Low purchase price are going to happen generally in the regions, and I say, that's pretty obvious. But not just 350. I'm starting to see things come across at sort of 200, and they're just either off market or the buyers agents is absolutely hammering it. And these are properties that potentially be neglected. You've had a landlord in there for 10, 20 years. They've done nothing. They've no heat pumps, nothing there, and they realise that now they're not as young as they used to be. They've just got to get rid of them. And they know to get those, either the property's compliant or in a really nice position.
Too hard basket.
It's too hard. You've got to spend 50 grand. I don't want to do 50 grand. I don't have time. I don't have the energy. And they just let them go. So we're seeing a lot more of that.
Yeah, which is opportune for you. Fresh blood, rejuvenating these properties is actually perfect. What we might do is just save all of the questions so we can actually do a Q&A.
We've got a wee bit over time. But this is good.
Thank you for joining us, because this is more productive than watching Netflix. So kudos to all of you for bettering yourselves and being with us. But thanks so much for spending Wednesday night, Webby Wednesday.
Yeah. We're not doing marketing. This is the first time we're doing this. We're not. Yeah. Anyway, thanks, team.
Thank you. We'll be in touch tomorrow. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the rest of your night.